Bronn, you better take that gold and run and help resupply some northern armies with that, bro. You were a few inches away from killing the queen, a few inches away from taking out a dragon, the largest dragon in her arsenal. And after episode 1 of season 8, you're quickly going to the top of my shit list. In this video, I want to discuss some of the slow burner plots, the events that happened in episode 1 that we may not see the end result of until the 4th, 5th, and 6th episodes of the season, basically the latter half. Now, as always, the leaked part of this video is meant to be taken with a grain of salt and is just for entertainment purposes. Here's your sign and let's begin. Now, before we get started, please slap a like on this video, as the like goal is going to be, you know what, checking the calendar, 420 is right around the corner. Let's make the like goal for this video 4,200 and I guess 69 or something. Make sure you're subscribed and then make sure you have your notifications turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a video. Long night! Now, the first plot point that I want to discuss from episode 1 that has a bit of a slow burn is the one that I mentioned at the very beginning of this video. The Bronn plot. I mean, I don't really know what's going to come of it. When you really start to break it down and you think about it, Bronn was first brought into the show as a sellsword. Over time, he's definitely developed a friendship with both Jaime Lannister and Tyrion. It's clearly not just about gold and money with him, or he wouldn't have risked his own life to save Jaime's last season. Bronn pretends that he does it all for the money, but we all know deep down he has a soft spot in his heart for the Lannisters. Well, the two good ones anyway, and what the showrunners have showed us with his past history and how he is as a person, deep down he's a good guy. I don't really think he will kill Jaime or Tyrion after they survive whatever happens to them up north on their way back home. There's no way that he would ever do that. Now, it probably seems like I'm backtracking here because everyone watching and listening to this is probably like, hey, dude, you were just talking shit about Bronn saying how he almost killed a dragon and almost killed Daenerys. Well, yes, that is true. He did do that. But my job in reviewing these Game of Thrones episodes and just being a massive fan of the show, I have to learn to be unbiased. I have to put myself on the other side. Daenerys shows up with a massive dragon. He's never seen her before, and if he doesn't do something, he's gonna fucking die. The scene that happens to Bronn right before he pulls out the crossbow is pretty epic. We never see him get scared like that. The fact that he's rode down by one of the Dothraki riders puts Bronn at a heightened level of awareness, and the fact that he's just trying to do whatever he can to stop this violence from occurring. I didn't mean crossbow, I meant scorpion. I'm confusing it with this season, but isn't it kind of ironic that both plots that will change how Bronn looks or is looked at by the audience involve some sort of crossbow? And then last season in Game of Thrones season 8 episode 7, as Jon and Daenerys are discussing their journey up north, it's mentioned that some lucky man, by Jorah anyway, that some lucky man could easily take out Daenerys with a crossbow. Jorah even mentions that that man would be a hero in Queen Cersei's eyes. Then also, an episode prior, but right before Daenerys goes to north of the wall to go and rescue Jon Snow and basically hand the Night King a dragon, Tyrion tells her on the field of fire, I saw hundreds of arrows fired at your freaking face. One of them could have hit you, and then it's all over, unless we discuss the rules for succession, which is what Tyrion was trying to do in the conversation that he was having with Daenerys at that time. I mean, at the end of season 8 episode 1, we saw that we know what's going to happen with Daenerys' succession if she is killed, but the fact that Bronn was given this crossbow, has already fired an arrow at Daenerys, and then the first thing he says when he realizes that Qyburn is asking him to do a favor for the queen is, I'm not going to kill the Dragon Queen. Well, just correcting myself there, he said, if it's the Dragon Queen, basically insinuating that he wouldn't do it if that's what he's asking her to do. Now, in my opinion, there's been way too much foreshadowing laid about for this to not happen. I think we're all thinking there's going to be Daenerys on the back of her dragon, fighting against the Night King. Drogon is bigger. Daenerys has had more experience flying him. Daenerys also has all of these warriors on her side equipped with dragonglass weapons. We kind of feel like if there's a battle between the Night King and Daenerys in the sky, she would be successful. She would at least be able to take down Viserion, forcing the Night King down to the ground and maybe taking away a few deadly levels to him. I feel like that's what we're all expecting to happen. And then to add to that, you know, just sort of worst case scenario, we know that there's a chance that Daenerys could die in that fight with the Night King. We also know that Melisandre, who has previously resurrected Jon Snow, has been told, her cohorts anyway, have told Daenerys that she's chosen by R'hllor. We all realize that there's a chance that Melisandre could bring Daenerys back. She may lose Jon and her child in the process, but I think most people, one way or another, think that Jon and Daenerys are going to be alive in the end. Now, when Jon hopped on a dragon and started flying destroying him in episode 1, that sort of threw a wrench into that whole plan. Now I feel like Jon's gonna be the one who squares off against the Night King on the back of Rhaegal. With Daenerys being pregnant and the only one who in Jon's eyes should be the one to sit the Iron Throne, he may try to convince her to go to somewhere safely where the dead could never reach. The perfect place would either be the Iron Islands or Dragonstone. Bringing this all back around, I definitely feel like there's some foreshadowing in the sense that Bronn was handed a crossbow and has previously attempted to take out the Dragon Queen before. I feel like he's far more likely to attempt to do that instead of take out one of his best friends, that being Jaime or Tyrion. And my part was saying Daenerys may not be at the battle for Winterfell. Well, maybe he's given the chance to do that because she goes to Dragonstone. I don't really know what Cersei's plan for her, like Qyburn mentioned, but Cersei isn't exactly the nicest person. So we know whatever plan she's come up with for Daenerys, I'm pretty sure it involves torture. And relating back to what I was saying earlier, it does seem like there's a bunch of foreshadowing to Daenerys being killed somehow this season, especially on the back of her dragon and being killed by an arrow. If she does die, we do know that there's always the chance for her to be brought back. My whole question is was Jon Snow brought back on Melisandre's own skill or merit, or was it Shireen's sacrifice and blood magic who brought Jon Snow back? If that's the case, then maybe with Daenerys, the blood magic that will have to be sacrificed in order to bring her back will be her and Jon Snow's child. You all let me know what you think about that down below in the comment section. The last thing I want to say about Bronn's plot before we move on to the next one, Bronn is likely going to show up to Winterfell right before the battle begins and maybe meet with Jaime. I mean, I guess I don't really know what could happen, but I do know that the main reason why in the promo for episode 2 all of the Starks and Daenerys seem to be pissed off with Jaime is because he doesn't have an army. He came there empty-handed, and I'm pretty sure he just delivered the news that the Lannister army will not be joining them up north, which is something that was just promised to everyone by Tyrion the previous episode. I want to see how all this news is going to get taken. I feel like with Bronn, he could show up and be like, hey, I may not have an army, but we have these 3 chests of gold. Maybe this could help out somehow. Maybe we could throw it at the Night King if we run out of dragon glass. Now, the next slow burn plot that I want to discuss is that of Sansa and how the rest of her and the North are going to react when they find out about Jon Snow's lineage. Now, I don't think that Jon is going to be the one to tell everyone the rest of the information. I think once Jon finds out, he's going to immediately go and inform Davos of the news. Davos, being his former hand of the king, is going to likely tell him that maybe this would be the worst possible thing to say to Daenerys right before a battle. He thinks that it would probably distract her, like the rest of us, from their main goal, which is to defeat the Night King. If she has to worry about not sitting the Iron Throne in the middle of such a dire situation, she'll clearly be distracted and they may lose the battle because of this. Now, as far as my own personal opinion, like I stated in my previous videos, I think Jon should tell Daenerys immediately. That would be the best way to handle the situation, and I know she's going to be distracted from the battle, but waiting to tell her the information of his true lineage may be far more disastrous than if he just told her right away. Now, in relating this to the North, I'm going to go ahead and throw up a spoiler warning because I'm about to mention one of the leaks that was sent to me through the DMs over on Twitter. Speaking of which, make sure you go follow me at Sir_Harnst. But this person mentions that, just sort of summarizing here, but during season 8, Varys becomes aware of Jon Snow's true lineage. He then tells Tyrion. Tyrion then meets in private with Sansa and informs her of the truth about Jon. They both agree that something must be done. Throughout the rest of the season, Sansa attempts to undermine Jon to the rest of the North. Now, I was actually sent a very similar leak that claimed that when Tyrion and Sansa have this conversation about finding out about Jon Snow's lineage, that Sansa is already informed of this because Bran tells her. Now, what's interesting, in all the leaks that I was sent about that have to deal with Jon Snow's true lineage, mostly all of them have people finding out the information at separate times. And from what we've seen so far about season 8, that's pretty on par. We know that Jon Snow just found out, and he's the one person in my opinion that should only know. Maybe he should just keep it to himself, and Bran and Sam need to shove it and thinking that he's going to want to sit the Iron Throne, because he's not. It's for Daenerys. But as of right now, the only person that knows is Jon, Bran, and Sam. We have to remember that the man who knows and hears everything is there, Varys, and also Sansa was trained by Littlefinger, being his apprentice. Sansa likely has spies all over Winterfell, so maybe someone was down in the crypts and heard this information. Episode 2 could open up with Arya walking out of the shadows from behind Ned's statues or something. And from what she said to Jon the last episode, she would likely immediately go and tell Sansa, no questions asked. She is on her family's side, and that will seem cruel at sometimes, but we gotta remember, their house sigil is a wolf, and right now we're entering the time for wolves. I've long said that by the end of this season, the Starks will not look so innocent. Now, the next plot that I want to discuss from episode 1 that's going to be a bit of a slow burn, and I feel like it's a perfect segue from just mentioning that the Starks aren't innocent, is the Night King. everybody thinks that he may secretly be a Stark, but I want to talk about the Night King symbol. What exactly is he trying to tell everyone? Now, I mentioned in my last episode 2 preview breakdown that his target, in my opinion, is most likely Bran, and that message was left for Bran. Bran could go back, look through his visions, and realize that, hey, this was the same symbol that was at the Night King's creation. Maybe the Night King wants to destroy everything and get revenge on who created him. Bran is sort of the last of that. The Children of the Forest created the Night King using old god magic, and that same magic still flows through the blood of Bran. But if we take a step back and look at it from a literal sense, the spiral means a progressive rise and fall of power. We were told by Daenerys before she even entered Westeros that she wants to break that wheel. You know, the Lannisters are on tops, then House Stark is on top, then House Baratheon is on top. Daenerys wants to destroy that. Well, the Night King, leaving this symbol everywhere, and this is part of his creation, is literally stating that maybe he's doing the same thing that Daenerys ultimately wants to do. Stop all of these games for the Iron Throne and instill some sort of dynasty that will last for a while. Now, the Night King has been hyped up to be this big bad. He's this great evil, and we're dying to literally figure out what's going on behind him. What's the motivation behind the White Walkers? Do they have some sort of culture? We know they were formerly humans. Do they communicate with each other? And I'm gonna let everyone know right now, I think we should stop asking those questions. We're not gonna get any more information on the history of the White Walkers and the others until George writes more in his books or until the prequel series comes out. I think mostly for this television show, Dan and Dave love the idea of mystery. Sometimes evil is just evil. Sometimes you're created to do something and you do just that. No motivation, no reasoning behind it. It's what you were made to do. Almost a machine-like in nature. And relating back to what I said earlier, that thing that the Night King wants to do, the same thing as Daenerys, destroy the will, the dynasty that he wants to instill that will last for a while is just death. He wants to literally just destroy everything, to kill every single living person so that way the magic that is sustaining his life will be over and he could finally die. I think the Night King, well, we know that the Night King was created in the television show by the Children of the Forest to help them defeat mankind. Mankind was encroaching on their land, burning down their sacred trees, and all around just being buttholes. This was the reason the Night King was created, was to destroy mankind, so maybe once mankind is finally destroyed, the Night King can be put to rest. Now, throwing out the spoiler warning again here, because I'm going to mention some leaks that were sent to me. I've actually been sent a few different leaks mentioning a few different reasonings to the motivation behind the Night King. In general, most people tend to guess wildly at what his true purpose is, but all of those plot leaks agree that the Night King is dealt with by episode 4. It may seem as though he's the ultimate villain for this TV show, but we have to realize that the ultimate villain for this show is still alive. That being Cersei Lannister, are just humans. Human conflicts of the heart are what turn out to be the greatest villains on this show. Basically meaning mankind is the true evil, and the greatest threat isn't actually the dead, but instead the living. Now, a few more things before we move on to the last slow burn plot for this video. I feel like my personal speculation on the Night King, if we get some sort of back history to him, and it's not just that, hey, he's created to destroy, that's what he's going to do, then maybe he's half fire and half ice, just like Jon Snow. The main thing that every single character who's in a position of power seems concerned with the most in this television show is securing an heir for the future, ensuring that their house will survive even after they die, which is a rightful sentiment. Literally every single person that's next to you could die the next day, so of course you gotta be obsessed with making sure your family lasts. Maybe the Night King is the same way and he wants his race to be able to continue on, and since they can't procreate naturally, he has to find someone to replace him. Maybe he was of some sort of special significance, a child of ice and fire in the past, and Jon is the only one who could replace him. You know, now that I've said that out loud, that sounds really dumb. I have made videos before on it in the past, so check the link down below in the description for a link to that video. But the last slow burn plot that I want to discuss for this season has to do again with Cersei, but not so much what she sent Bronn on a mission to go do, instead what she's going to do with Euron and the Golden Company, and really how she's going to end this whole thing. Cersei is the biggest bad. She's retained the Iron Throne the longest, and I've shown clips to an interview where George R. R. Martin basically hinted at the fact that the Iron Throne will be sat by multiple people, but in the end, it's mostly going to be sat by Cersei. If I have to call it right now, I feel like Cersei's biggest threat is her enemies who she's chosen to make allies and keep extremely close to her. Euron is a manipulative cunt in the books, and that's what he's going to be in season 8. He's pretending that he has all of these feelings. You know, in that scene that he has with Yara, he's like, "You're the only person I can talk to. I have a crew full of mutes." Yeah, because you chopped their tongues off, a-hole. Then also he has another moment with Cersei where she's like basically telling him he ain't getting no ass, and then he's like, "Oh, my heart weeps." Like he's the writers were like, we've got to expand on Euron's character. We've got to show more of how manipulative he can be in the books, and that's what he's doing on the television show. It's not really long enough for us us to really think too much on it because his scenes are somewhat brief. But trust me, there's a slow burn plot going on there. I feel like there's a moment in Cersei's introduction with the Golden Company where Harry Strickland goes, "It'll be an honor fighting for your side," and then just sort of gives this smirk, bows, and then walks out. There's definitely some foreshadowing there. We were given a close-up of his sword, and now we can see it in a lot clearer detail. This is not your average sword. This is what some people are calling a scimitar, but in my opinion, that's just a ESO-C Valyrian steel sword. I'm pretty sure this is going to turn out to be Blackfire, and I would not be surprised if at some point, given at just the right moment, the Golden Company will turn on Cersei, and Harry Strickland is going to kneel in front of the two Targaryens with this Valyrian steel sword. Maybe Jon Snow will be able to use Blackfire to reconquer the Seven Kingdoms. This is the same one that Aegon the Conqueror initially used when he went to claim the Seven Kingdoms and unite it all into one. And what the showrunners could do to take advantage of the average show watcher who's not going to know of the real history of the Golden Company, they could shoehorn them in just so that Cersei could be royally screwed in the end of the series. She thinks she's got this massive army that's protecting her, but instead they used her for a free ride over to Westeros to go and bend the knee to Jon Snow and Daenerys. And that way, when the show reveals its history or its alternate history of the Golden Company, it'll fit in perfectly with their adaptation of George R. R. Martin's story. Now, I'll admit it first if I'm wrong, but I feel like at this point, there's only a matter of time before the Golden Company leaves Cersei's service. And we have to also remember that Jorah used to work with the Golden Company for several years before going and pledging his service to Daenerys. This was actually a scene on the show. All they would have to do is put it in that reminder clip at the beginning of the episode. Alright, and we're almost at 17 minutes, so I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could please, slap a like on this video. The like goal is going to be 4,269. Also, make sure you're subscribed, and then, this is the most important part, make sure you have your notifications turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a video. Long night. Super special shout out to every single person watching this video, and a super special thank you to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. I want to thank you all again so much for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunts Reviews.